182 in vacation rental years, right? That was kind of like a dog year, right? So it didn't laugh. I've owned or operated more than 13 different companies, right? Somebody screwed up, sold me a company when I was a kid, and I didn't blow it up, and I just kind of kept moving forward. So that's really where I cut my teeth. I've operated more than 200 different resort locations. That doesn't mean I flew in and out of this airport. That means I was there for usually 3 to 5 days, taking a deep dive with someone like yourself. Used to run a 2,400 unit company, primarily from Sarasota down to Naples. As a kid out of college, I started with Resort Quest. Most of you are familiar with Resort Quest. I was a staff accountant, ran around with those guys, did internal audits, operational audits. I was an interim general manager, you name it. I was the only kid, unmarried, and not an executive vice president in the corporate office. So I would literally be at my desk and they'd say, hey, what are you doing tomorrow? Whatever you guys tell me to do. Hey, can you go to Waikiki tomorrow? This was from Memphis, Tennessee. Sure. You know, so I would pack up and go and run and do it. With that, I got a lot of experience in a short amount of time. And not necessarily experience that I could cast in stone and use over and over and over. In a lot of cases, I learned what not to do more so than what to do. And I think maybe that's a little bit more beneficial sometimes. I've really centered myself around buying and selling vacation rental companies over the past 20 years. As a kid, I would orchestrate fairly large deals, and somebody would give me a free vacation, like a free 3-night stay, or I would get a gift card for dinner or something like that. Now I got 2 little kids that just wearing me out, eating me out of house and home, and we kind of formalized the business around that. So we do a lot of this on an annual basis. We'll sell 15 to 25 businesses each year, anywhere from probably $500,000 to $1 million, up to 12 or 15 million bucks. Very proud of being a part of VRMintel, to be a past president there. Thought about striking that bullet point, but those guys will get their stuff figured out at some point. My mother-in-law's got a really, really great business over in Destin. She's been around for 30 plus years, and you don't do that by not really focusing in on the business. So proud to be a part of that. I've got a business that I own in Monterey County, California. We're in California about a week and every 6 weeks out there with that business, and then I own Weatherby Consulting. So it's not my high school football highlight reel. I'm just trying to explain to you that I've got a little bit of experience. I'm not trying to tell you how to do it, like they do it in Destin or in Naples, Florida, or Breckenridge, Colorado. I've seen virtually every market in the U.S. and there's nuances. So I'm hoping that'll give you a little bit more trust in me to maybe pay attention to some of the stuff I'm talking about. So let's talk about the. Can you guys hear me okay? Is this thing echoing a little bit for you guys? I'll keep it on because you're doing a video. Right? All right. Let's talk about the current industry landscape. One thing that's interesting is when I started out in this business, you put a couple ads, and you guys know how this works. You put a couple ads in Southern Living magazine, kind of sit back, phones would ring, and things just happen, right? Now you've got to be a marketing genius. Now we're mainstream lodging accommodations. Expedia was running a commercial the other night, and one of the tabs they had on the commercial was vacation rentals. I mean, that was on major network running vacation rentals. So we're mainstream lodging accommodations. There's a significant increase in awareness because of a lot of these things. Airbnb, HomeAway, VRMintel, Booking.com. Everybody's talking about homes, condos. Why would you want to stay somewhere else? Right? You guys have probably seen this stat, and this has probably gone up, but we represent about $25 billion worth of business here in the U.S. At the same time, they're talking about vacation rentals representing about 100 billion globally, right? So we're representing about 25% of the globe here in the U.S. I'm curious to see when Focusrite comes out with an updated stat here. 33% of people have stayed in a private accommodation. You know that's going up, right? 79% of property managers said, hey, I'm going to grow, right? Because there's tools out there nowadays that we didn't have 20 years ago. We have things like Breezeway, right, where you can go in and inspect houses. You have guest apps that communicate for you. Things have gotten a lot easier, and you said, hey, all right, now all of a sudden I have this infrastructure, I can grow without pulling my hair out, things like that. So folks are trying to move the ball down the field and grow their operation. This is really interesting. I think this is going to be something to watch. I'm going to have to move this. I'm going to wind up paying for it, right? With the economy the way it is right now, right? You'd be hard pressed to find someone who's not doing well in this economy. With that, we're starting to see some dirt moving around, right? We're seeing some more building, and I think we're going to see more and more supply. I've had this conversation with a lot of people. The Southeast primarily is in a great place to rake up on new inventory. When you go out to California and you look at the beautiful coastline in Monterey County, there's not one square inch of it for sale. There's not one square inch of it that you can build on. You know, there's other areas that may have additional land, but not like the land that we have along the coast here. So there's an opportunity here to increase unit count through new inventory. And frankly, when a new tower pops up here in Orange Beach, where do people generally want to stay? They want to try the new tower, right? The new luxury tower, the new this, the new that, the one with a new pool, or whatever it may be. So it's something that folks are seeing a lot of and focusing on right now. I thought this was interesting. Put this in there. Our rental nights, just the overall nights are interesting. I think one thing that's interesting about the market we have here that I don't know if everybody really understands how good we have it. You go down to Naples, Florida, the majority of the rentals down there are 30-night minimum rentals, dictated by a homeowners association or something like that. Carmel, California, the same way. You go to certain areas around the U.S., the homeowners association or a local municipality has restricted rentals in some form or fashion. If you wanted to rent a vacation rental here for one night, you can do it, right? It's cost prohibitive, right? You can get a cleaning fee, you get this stuff. But generally, you'll do a 3-night rental, right? That's huge. And these markets that have, these low minimum night stays allow you to capture more fees, and generally fairly profitable. So we're seeing the average rental nights go up, and I would imagine that Focusrite's going to be republishing another number here soon. So let's dive into this thing and get going. Let's talk about a look back. Let's look back a little bit. We've seen record transaction volume invested in the industry. Luxury retreats. Airbnb buys these guys. Nobody can give me a real firm fixed number. I've heard anywhere from 150 to 350. I do think it's closer to a $350 million number. One thing that's interesting, Airbnb bought a quasi-vacation rental management, right? They're a management company. They're also kind of a listing site. They're also concierge. So it's interesting. But can you imagine what people would be doing if HomeAway would have bought Randy Hall's business, right? That never happened. But can you imagine if they bought a vacation rental manager, right? People would flip out. Airbnb's done it. Nobody said anything about it. I'm not pitting one against the other, but I'm trying to articulate something we might want to be cognizant of. Probably doesn't affect this market so much as it does certain other fringe markets, the Caribbean, Hawaii, things like that. That's where a lot of this big inventory that luxury retreats had listed. If I was out there, I'd be thinking about listing my inventory with a competitor, so to speak. You've seen Vacasa recently, as late as in the last year, recorded another $100 million in investment on top of the 40 plus $5 million they've received. So they're about $145 million of investment thus far. Steve Milo, $35 million plus raised in his business. Turnkey is about $40 million as well. We're seeing the overall transaction volume increase, right? That's in both number of transactions and the valuation multiples. We will do the majority of the sales transactions on an annual basis. We're seeing a lot of this stuff come through. It's rare that we turn somebody down to help them. We're in the business of helping people. But if your business is not put together in such a way that it's able for us we're able to fundamentally market it and sell it, we probably wouldn't do business with one another because it wouldn't be a good fit for either one of us. But I would tell you those deals are still getting done, but they're not going through a particular channel, right? They're still getting done. People they're passing by those directly, or Vacation Rental Pros, or Resort Quest, or whomever. They're being gobbled up within the market, right? Those are still getting done. Those are the ones that don't have a lot of visibility on, but there's still a lot of deals getting done up there. One thing last year that we started to see are the terms. The terms are becoming more favorable for the sellers. And that's not that it's bad for buyers. It's just becoming more of a reasonable, fair and reasonable transaction process. With all this awareness, with all the transactions that are being done, we haven't seen this transaction flow, frankly, since the early 2000s, when Resort Quest had an obscene amount of money and started marching through the U.S., talking to companies, buying companies, doing things of that nature. With all of this awareness, we're still seeing a tremendous amount of confusion as it relates to how do I sell a business? Why would somebody want to buy my business? What is the driver of the purchase price? What do I need to focus in on if I'm going to sell? Somebody approached me. Somebody called me and said they've been looking at my business and they're really impressed with me and they want to buy my business. There are companies out there right now that you guys will appreciate this analogy. They're just trolling for businesses, right? Sending out letters. I'll get a call from somebody that says, "Hey, I got a letter from this company and they're really interested in my business." I'm like, "Well, that's fantastic. You and about 2,000 other people got that letter." I mean, that's how that works, right? So it's flattering, yes, but if it's something you're going to consider, it's something you need to think about and focus on, just like you've been focusing on your business, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about that. So why are we seeing this, right? The name of this session is or the purpose of the session is just to give you an idea of what's going on. But why are we seeing these deals go through? Well, number one, because these are pretty stable businesses, right? If you hit the ball down the middle of the fairway, you're a pretty reasonable person. You don't try to take advantage of people, right? What I mean by that is you're at a 20 to 25% commission market. You're not going out there at 35%. You're not charging a 10% res fee. You're reasonable to deal with when your homeowners call and they've got an issue, guests got an issue, you're reasonable. If you kind of play down the middle of the fairway, you've got a pretty stable business, right? You may not grow a ton, but you can pretty well maintain your business, right? There's still room to grow, right? People that buy a business are looking to grow. There's still plenty of room to grow in our industry. In fact, vacation rentals are going to represent about 8% of the total travel industry. That's a really small number when you think about it. There's the ability to grow quickly. If you've got money, I got something to sell, right? Or there's businesses to buy, or there's the opportunity to grow organically. And I think there's a multifaceted approach to grow. But there is the ability to grow quickly if you want. These transactions and the ultimate transition of a closed transaction are becoming more efficient nowadays. used to, you had this DOS-based system and this DOS-based system, and you had a team of res agents. You were paying overtime for a week, keying reservations, only to find out that your balances didn't add up, and then owners were getting bad owner statements for a couple months. I mean, it was a tough process. That's pretty straightforward, right? You can get these things transitioned, especially when you're going from software to software A to software A, or things like that. Even if you're not, there's still opportunities to upload reservations, get things converted. Most of our terms in our business policies are very, very similar, right? So it's becoming easier. There's a sizable return. Find me a place where you can invest $1 and get a return of 20 or 25%, right? Because businesses are bought and sold on a multiple of 4 to 5 times cash flow. What that means is you're investing $1, you're going to get 20 to 25 cents back based upon the multiple you purchased business. Pretty sizable. And then there's another huge opportunity where Company A in Orange Beach buys Company B in Orange Beach. There's even an opportunity for a more sizable return, right? Because Company A's got all this staff, Company B's got all this staff. There's duplicative marketing, there's duplicative expenses all over the place, and there's an opportunity to really combine that as we move forward. So we're going to start kind of picking it up a little bit. So what are the metrics? Well, first off, they're fair. That's what's interesting. That's fundamentally driving this. That this is not a UAW negotiation process, right? Nobody's banging on tables and things like that. We're in a relationship business. So most of the people that we do business with are relationship people. They're easy to deal with. Not easy. I'm not saying they're pushovers from that standpoint, but I'm saying they're fair. They're reasonable. They want what they want, but they're going to do it in a professional way. There's no knockdown, drag out, bare knuckle negotiations going on. So here are a number of the deal metrics that we're seeing really drive these transactions. Average life in a rental management contract. If you've been in business for 15 minutes, not a whole lot to sell, okay? Because you don't have any consistency in your business. You haven't built relationships. You have trust so much so as somebody who's got a 10-year-old business, and the average life of a contract is 6 or 7 years. That's a completely different deal, right? Which business are you willing to pay 4.5 times earnings for? One that's been in business for a year, one that's been in business 10 years with a long life, average life of contract. Obviously, you're going to bet on the long one. There's obviously unit count growth and opportunities to grow a business. If your business is leaning forward, moving forward, and growing, that's a metric that is rewarding. If you're retracting, buyers feel like there's blood in the water, right? They feel like something's wrong with this business, and so I'm not going to make a market rate offer on the business. So get your house in order is what we're saying. We talked about EBITDA multiples going from 4.5 to 5. We're seeing actually more higher multiples. We've closed a number of deals over the past few years at 5, which is almost unheard of. Right? But these are high growth businesses, great locations, things like that. Everybody in here thinks they have a 5X business. Their business is worth 5 times earnings. Not the case. Their businesses come in all shapes and sizes. I hate to break that to you, but that's just how it works. But there are businesses out there that are doing that. We are seeing a lot of 4.25, 4.5, 4.75 type businesses, and those numbers are certainly moving up. Market rate transactions. So when you tell me that somebody sent you a letter and they want to buy your business and they want to give you 10% down and some change from their pocket, maybe a little bit of land, something paid out over the next 20 years, that's not a good deal, right? If you're going to inherently hold the risk in a transaction, you need to keep the business, right? Why would you sell your business and leave all this risk on getting paid, or maybe your purchase price is contingent upon property remaining on the program, but you're no longer involved in the business? It doesn't seem fair, does it? It doesn't seem rational, but people are doing that every day, right? So we think market rate transactions include a 50% down payment. Multi-year payments, you can get a 2 or 3 year payment plan. If that's what your business is, right? We just sold a business in Northern California in the middle of the mountains, and it's a long way from just about anywhere. It's a neat little business, fun place, but it's not a 5X business because it's a small market, right? There's not a tremendous amount of marketing and advertising buzz about this location. That business will continue to do well for years and years and years, but it's a limited market. You're only going to be able to grow this much and things of that nature. So that was a 50% down, payments over a few years. Payments are guaranteed by the buyer's corporation, no personal guarantees and stuff. Just doesn't work. But you're also paid a market rate interest. That's what we think the floor is in a transaction. What we think the ceiling is all cash and closing, right? Everybody here is going to say, if I'm going to sell my business, I want all cash and closing. There's probably a handful of you in here that would get all cash and closing because it doesn't happen 100% of the time. We do a lot of those transactions. We, for whatever reason, are working with businesses that demand that. But I think if you're in between that floor and that ceiling, you're doing a good job. And you have no contingency. Those are market rate terms. At the same time, if you go out and you buy a pizza restaurant or a salon or something like that, you go out to a business broker's website, there are working capital adjustments made in these offers and things of that nature. And what that means is you're going to sell your business, but they also want you to leave enough cash in the business for them to operate. The definition of working capital is current assets minus current liabilities, but it depends on which current liabilities you include and which current assets you include, because current liabilities in our business generally are advanced deposits. Well, you've got to exclude that number because generally it's a very large number. So all that being said, when someone makes an offer in your business and they say, well, subject to working capital adjustments, that's just an exercise of horse trading, right? This is going to boil down to how much money can we get out of you through this process. And so that's something you need to be cognizant of, both on the buy and the sell side. The sellers are not generally subject to it, although it's being presented more and more right now. So we also are seeing a number of items create additional seller value, and that's on a multiple levels. But let's get going here. So what do you need to know if you're considering buying a business? As much as we talk about sellers, we'll talk about buyers. The reverse is true. So if you're a buyer, think about this from a seller standpoint. You may be able to craft an offer that's more enticing and allow you to effectively close something out. One thing that's super important, probably equally as important as getting a non-disclosure agreement or confidentiality agreement at the beginning, is this is not something that you just try. I think I'm going to put it out to all my competitors that I'm interested in selling and kind of put my toe in the water. You don't hear that very often, right? Nobody does that. If you did that in our market, the next thing you know, those homeowners will be getting about 50 letters, right? Hey, I heard your business, I heard there's changes ahead. I heard, right? So you've got to focus in on this. If you're going to do what you need to do, that's what that means. For buyers, some of these newly formed companies present concerns. They're not put together. So I would suggest maybe you want to just buy contracts because they're really not a business to buy them. HomeAway, VRBO, TripAdvisor, some of these distribution portals have been fantastic to do business with, but they've also led to an increase in, I heard somebody, I won't repeat that, but a lot of these companies are just popping up, right? You know, I joke in Florida, as you drive from Georgia to Florida, it's almost like somebody's standing at the line there saying, hey, here's how to start a vacation rental company. You know, vacation rentals for dummies, right? Because everybody that's moving in from Georgia, they're like, oh, I'm in the vacation rental. I'm like, oh, wow, that's great. You know, congratulations. And we have 5 properties. We have, you know, and that's fantastic. These people are popping up left and right. There's not a business there. These newly formed companies almost have more liability associated with it because how do you get 5, 10, 15 properties? You don't get them by coming in at market rate commissions and doing things the way you guys have done them for 100 years. You make these special deals and things of that nature. So be cognizant of that. There's fundamentally no financial reporting or statistics in some of those businesses, but for the most part, that is a focal point that we all lack in our businesses. We're seeing a lot of businesses out there that struggle just to report coherent financial statements on a monthly basis. Okay. If your business is not great at doing financial statements, and you're going to buy a business and they're not great at doing financial statements, my guess is you're not going to value the business very well, right? It's going to come down to some type of free cash flow method that makes you feel good about buying the business, and that might work out for you, might not. I think there's definitely concerns there if you try to move forward and build a business on a foundation that's not scalable, it's not set in stone, it's not ready for growth. So is that an opportunity, or is this just education in your deal process, in your growth process? As a buyer, you look at that company that's really not well put together. Is that something where you know your business good enough where you can pull those 10, 15, 20 units in and pour them on top of your business and grow? Or is this just a learning point for you? A lot of folks we see, and this is really a minority. We see a lot of folks out there that offer fair deals, sellers accept fair deals, and there's a fair negotiation process. But we also see a lot of people who try to take advantage of people, right? Who come in and say, Greg, I'll give you 10, 20, 30% down. I'm going to pay you 10, 20, 30% over the next however many years, contingent upon how many properties remain on the program. And Greg, we know how involved you are in the business. It's great that you built this business, but now you're going to go away. And we're going to run your business for you, right? And we're going to run your business, although your future payout is dependent on how well we run the business, right? You might be at 25% commission, but we're at 35% commission. And because we're almost incentivized to convert people over potential fallout. I mean, if I come into your business after closing and say, guess what, owners, we're really excited to be here. By the way, your new management commission is 35%. Most of the owners are going to leave, right? I mean, that's a fair statement. What do I care? I'm going to pay you for the properties that stay on the program. So I end up with a business that has, 1/3 the inventory that we bought, but it's all at 35%. I'm still making a lot of money, and it didn't really cost me. Those are things that are going on in the industry. We don't run into situations where people didn't get paid for their business. People get paid for their businesses. We've never been a part of a deal where somebody didn't get paid, which is really, really interesting, right? You would think that would be more prevalent, but not necessarily the case. So, as far as sellers are concerned, we kind of talked about some buy-side stuff. As far as sellers, this goes back to putting your toe in the water. You need to decide what you want to do. Out of 100+ transactions, we've had, I'd say 2 or 3, maybe 1 or 2 actually, where folks were really interested in selling, and then we get down the line, and they decide not to sell. Both times it's come after a letter of intent. We've had great meetings with a prospective buyer. They're super excited, and all of a sudden, it kind of hits them, right? They're like, oh, wait a minute. I'm not going into the office. I won't be able to go in the office anymore. I don't have access to an administrative assistant. I'm going to have to pay for all this stuff I've been running through the business, right? There's a number of things that kind of dawn on people. Thankfully for us, it hadn't happened very often. But it did happen one time last year where we had passed an agreement back and forth. It had nothing to do with negotiations or anything of that nature. And seller pulled the ripcord and said, look, I can't do it. So you need to make a decision whether you want to sell or not. Because what that seller's done is he's told a number of people in the regional marketplace that, hey, I'm for sale, and a lot of them have their information. The people that we position businesses to are not ones that are going to capitalize on that. They have a confidentiality agreement. They're honorable people. They operate with integrity. But do you want your information in the marketplace? Probably not. Probably not. You don't wake up one morning and decide, hey, I'm going to sell my business. You need to think about this. This needs to be a long-range plan. It's more of a marathon where you think through it over a period of years and you prepare your business for selling. Because businesses are bought and sold on a multiple of bottom line, right? Profit needs to be a consideration. We run into a lot of people that have operated businesses for a long time that did not monetize their business properly. We help you do that. We can help you do that. You need to do that, right? I run into these people, and they're some of the best people in the industry, and they say, "Oh, well, that damage and everything. I don't like to charge that. Res fees, don't like to do that. It's scared somebody might get upset about that, right? We don't like to charge our owners, right? Because owners might get upset about that. We get a 20% commission. I think that's enough. They haven't fundamentally monetized the business, right? Those are some things that you need to consider. Having access to clear, coherent income statements is really important if you want to sell your business. Some of you will say, well, I run everything through my property management system, and I think we're in good shape, right? I tell you not. If you're not closing out your property management system, taking starting balances and ultimately the net change in accounts and pushing that over, not pushing, physically putting it into QuickBooks and running an income statement, a balance sheet, running like a real business, I tell you, you need to start doing it, right? A lot of us, as you start with 5, 10, 25, 40 properties, you're like, well, I'm not quite there yet. I tell you, you got to get there. The sooner the better. We talked a little bit about the revenue generation, some expense management. Now, we are excellent at throwing people at problems in this business. Right? Oh, we're going to problem. Oh, I know somebody we can hire that's going to take care of that, right? We constantly move people around. Most of us in here have bloated payrolls. We spend way too much money. We're not running our business like a business. Okay? The reason we do that is because most of us are relationship people. The reason you're not great at financials is because you're a vacation rental manager. Otherwise, you'd be an accountant, right? I mean, that's how this works. You're great at picking up owners. You're great at dealing with people. You're great at making people happy, right? That and financial management aren't really dovetailed together. Expense management is kind of the same way, where you don't have employees. You've got family members, right? Because they come over to your house every year for a Christmas party. They're part of the family, right? We ask them to work late sometimes, and people go above and beyond because it is a hospitality business. So we think of them differently as just your run-of-the-mill employee. So that happens. There's some products and things that we have in our business right now that you don't need, right? That increase our expenses. Marketing's a great one. Most of us in here have gotten salted because there is a neat, shiny, new, nice product that pops up every year that you got to have because somebody told you you're going to make $1 million, right? You got to have this, right? Otherwise, you're going to be behind everybody else in Orange Beach, right? Because this is producing so much revenue, right? We buy these things left and right. We never once perform a return on investment calculation, right? If you invest $1, right, and you're in a 20% commission market, it better be bringing $5 back to you. Does that make sense? Right? If you get a $5 booking, you only get $1 of that. But most of us don't even think about things like that. So what do you need to know again? If you're gonna think about selling your business, a lot of people that will call and say, hey, so-and-so called me and they want to buy my business. I'm like, well, what did you do? Well, we talked through a lot of stuff. I told them where I was on unit count, where we're marketing, and how much money we're making. I said, so you got a confidentiality agreement with them, right? No, they call. Well, you know what? If somebody picks up the phone and calls you and says, hey, I'm interested in buying your business, you say, hey, look, everything I have, this is the response. Everything I have is for sale. If you want to talk seriously, send me a confidentiality agreement, we'll talk. But if somebody picks up a phone, I get frustrated with that, right? Who right now would expect you to share information? Who would even ask it in the first place, right? So these are some of the things that you need to be cognizant of. Get a confidentiality agreement. If you're going to do this stuff, do it the right way. Most of us in here are great people. All of us in here are great people, right? I mean, we've got a lot of great people in our industry, but don't think that 100% of the people in here have true and proper motivation. Some people are going to try to pick off your homeowners, right? That's how that works. They're going to call and say, oh, did you hear about so-and-so's business? Yeah, they're for sale. There's a lot of changes. We're not for sale, right? And that's how this stuff works. So once you get this, if you're actually going to plan this out, we would suggest you put together kind of a prospectus. We call it a confidential offer memorandum. This is kind of how it works, right? If you're looking at buying a business and they don't have something pulled together, they're not ready. They haven't put the thought into the business to sell it, right? And this is what this does is it tells the story and articulates attributes. It conveys some qualitative information and some quantitative information. It's got some financial reporting detail. Majority, you'll hear me mention this a couple of times. The majority of VRMs are lacking there. But it has a proper presentation of value, right? Most people in this business, when they're thinking about buying or selling, they think, I grew up in Tennessee, so if it could be bought or sold or traded, we did it as kids, right? Shotguns, four-wheelers, baseball cards. And you kind of negotiate and hustle, and there's this up and down, this voluminous activity up and down. Not the vacation. All the industry that I've seen where you put out a price with a very limited amount of negotiation if you want to sell the business at maximum value. Because if I've got a business for selling a vacation rental business industry and I tell you that it's worth $5 million and you ultimately find out that it's worth $3 million because the market terms are pretty available, right? It's 4 to 5 times earnings. And I'm trying to sell for 8 times earnings. You look at me like I'm a knucklehead, right? You're like, what are you doing? So it's better to price the business at a level of what it may be slightly higher, but not 2 and 3 times higher. We had this conversation with folks that said, well, all right, so we want to get $1 million for the business, so should we price it at 2? No. If you can't clearly articulate value and stand by that value, folks are going to have an issue with fundamentally buying your business throughout that negotiation process, because there's a due diligence period here where you show this information, you convey this information, and are you doing the same thing through that process? Is that really the right number, or are you shooting high there or shooting low? So it's better to just be almost static throughout that process and provide actuals and let people make their own determinations. We want to see, from a selling perspective, we want to see consistent results. We don't want to see a bunch of voluminous activity in certain accounts. Most of you in here are saying, well, look, then my business makes $100,000 a year, $50,000 a year, $250,000. Let's use 100. You're sitting there saying, well, there's no way I'd sell my business for $400,000 to $500,000. And that's fair, right? You're probably getting a salary out of it. There's some things you're getting. That's probably not worth trading for that amount of money, right? Probably getting more out of it. But if I came in and said, wait a minute, you're getting a salary, your wife's getting a salary, you have these one-time expenses, you're doing this, you're doing that, all of a sudden your business is worth $200,000, right? Because we'll come in and add back non-essential expenses. Everybody in here is running something through their business that's not germane or pertinent or used in their business. Everybody's got a personal car running through there. Everybody runs extra meals. I might run some trips through mine, maybe country club membership, maybe a boat, maybe. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that gets run through these businesses. And when you add all that back, and it increases the bottom line, and I tell you your business is worth $800,000, $1 million, 1.2, 1.4, you're like, oh, wait a minute, that's a different number. I can think about that. So before you dismiss some of this stuff from a selling standpoint, you've got to normalize your income statement and add back all these expenses that are not germane to business.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Is that realistic though? I mean, from a buyer's perspective, are they going to be willing to pay for the things that the seller's considering or including as not germane to the business?
Absolutely. It happens every day. In fact, I have one seller who I mean, you can add back anything that's not germane. It's an easy discussion. What you don't want to do is get on one end of the spectrum where literally 90% of your earnings are added back, right? I had one guy who had boat expense, boat fuel expense, NFL ticket expense, having 2 or 3 trips to Europe, running through there, college education, private school education. I mean, he ran everything, right? We were still able to help him, but he went a little overboard, right? And particularly a little bit of tax reform right now, there's no need to do that. There's no need to push stuff out there because if we were ever audited, he'd had some issues there. So we add back a lot of stuff, and there's some crazy stuff that gets added back. One thing that's difficult at times is if you're in your business and you're paying yourself, say you've got 100 properties in Orange Beach, and you're paying yourself to run that business $250,000 a year. What's the going rate for a general manager in Orange Beach? 75, 100, 60, 90, 110, probably 65 to 125. It's not 250. So we're going to try to add that back. Well, the first discussion then at that point is from a perspective back. Well, I think it's closer to 150 or 175, right? And then that process starts. Pay yourself some reasonable amount of money, and then maybe take some consulting expenses or how, figure it out some other way. But you don't want to be in a situation where you're arguing over that salary, and that's something we see a lot. We've talked about a number of times. Don't sell your business. Don't think about selling your business if it's tied to ultimate unit count or things of that nature. It's just not. It's not good for you. If you're going to carry on the risk, you might as well keep your business. In a lot of cases, emotion comes into play. We've seen this for 20 years. We've seen people get mad, get up, walk out of rooms, come back in the room, storm back in, and you just got to take the emotion out of it. No one wants to deal with someone because let's face it, you're tied. If you're buying a business and you close that business, you're tied to that seller post-closing in some form or fashion. Whether they work for you, don't work for you, they're going to be around. Who wants to deal with somebody who's so voluminous, who's emotionally you're really out of it? Somebody who's getting frustrated, getting upset. That's difficult, right? If you just bought a business and paid a bunch of money, and you got somebody who doesn't want to call you back or is frustrated with you because you changed this little tiny policy in the business and they think you destroyed the business. I mean, there's some weird stuff that goes on. So that's why we suggest you find somebody to kind of help you take that out. These experts and advisors, in a lot of cases, can be the bad cop. Don't shoot the messenger, right? You can remain good cop whether you're the buyer or the seller, and you can go between the intermediary. In a lot of cases, folks will say, well, hey, can we cram this into like a business broker form? Well, those are great if you're selling a convenience store or pizza restaurant, not necessarily a vacation home. We have some very nuanced issues in our business with a lot of contingent liabilities, primarily advanced deposits. Everybody knows what advanced deposits are in Alabama, right? A lot of cases, yeah, some of these folks just don't understand how to deal with those. Those need to remain in escrow to get transferred to the buyer club, right? We did mention a little bit about transaction deposits. That's what we do for a living and do a lot of that. Let me give you a couple of closing points. This is kind of an overview of what's going on out there, what we're seeing, what you should focus in on. We're going to see this activity increase. If you are in your business right now and you're like, man, this stuff is tough. The rules of the game are changing. If you honestly don't feel up to the task of making those changes, now's an excellent time to get out. It's an excellent time to change gears. 2 years from now, 3 years from now, after you've chosen not to make those changes, your business, the enterprise value of your business will be worth exponentially less, right? Do you think distribution commissions are going up or down, right? They're going to take every last nickel they can, right? You've got to have a direct booking strategy. You cannot put all your eggs in one basket. So this is going to continue to happen because folks are going to say, you know what? I'm not willing to commit. I'm not going to do it. It's time for me to change gears. Your focus and diligence in that process will ensure success, whether you're a buyer or seller, right? Somebody told me you need to plan your work and work your plan. That couldn't be more true in our day-to-day business or over in the overall aggregated transaction. This is one thing I get this. Most of us in here are kind of going through the motions, right? We've had to work a little bit harder over the past couple, 2 or 3 years. Platinum listings are gone, right? You can buy this placement and you can just rake up. Right? We made a lot of money doing that stuff. I remember telling somebody, they said, hey, should I advertise on HomeAway or VRMintel or TripAdvisor? And I said, listen, this is what I would equate it to. If I told you you could go out in your parking lot and hand somebody a $1 bill and they hand you a $5 bill back, would you do that? Yeah. I said, that's what it's like. That's what it's like. You know, you get a platinum listing and all of a sudden you're making all this money. It's great. We got fat and happy during that process, right? We got addicted. Now we're in a situation where we're going to start focusing on direct bookings. I'm not saying turn those guys off. They're still great. I mean, we still have a great ROI. As bad as some of these folks are, as much as you want to choke the life out of them over a few policies, you're still making money. But it's time to focus it on running your business like a business. Okay? Generated material profit. Well, look, these folks are like, wow, we've never really focused in on profits. Why not? If I didn't make money doing what I'm doing, I'd be home playing with my kids. Right? That's what I'd want to do every day. I go to work because I need to make money because my wife thinks my kids have to eat everything organic. Right? And it's twice as much as normal stuff. Right? I ate white trash food in Tennessee, and I turned out all right. You know, that's how it works. But focusing on making money. I mean, don't apologize for it. You know, people say, "Oh, well, my owners are going to be upset if I charge." Well, look, I used to sit on Santa Barbara and say, "Hey, Mr. Owner, they think a lot of their electricity down here on Santa Barbara. Well, we want to keep the lights on, so that's why we have to charge you a little bit. I didn't charge you for the 3 other work orders. I just charged you for this one. We just need to mitigate our expenses, or make a little bit of money, make a reasonable profit to survive." And that's one thing that we need to focus on. If you're going to go down this road, do some research. If you're a buyer, if you really want to buy businesses, think about how that's going to impact your business. You don't want to blow up your business by trying to double it, right? You don't want to sell your business if you hadn't really thought about the process, thought about how that's going to work. So let me tell you real quick about what we do. This is what, run through this really, really quick. We do a lot of buy-sell stuff. I've done it since I was a kid, since June of 2000. We do a lot of profitability consulting, something to be cognizant of. You don't need to hire me, pick up the phone and call me, pick up the phone and call and say, hey, this is what's going on. If I've got the time, we'll talk through it. If you want to set aside some time, we might send you an engagement letter or something like that. But everybody in here needs to be making the most out of your business, because you have people that count on you and or your business, right? Because all of us in here have employees, right? Employees are counting on your business. Those employees have family members, right? Kids, husbands, wives, spouses. The community's counting on you to make a profit. If you go out of business because you can't run your business like a business, and you run off with advanced deposits and all kinds of stuff, you're hurting the community, you're hurting the stakeholders, you're hurting the industry. So profit is paramount. And then another thing that we do is we do a lot of accounting work for folks. I think we do a really good job there. My controller is a 25-year veteran of the industry. She's the best accountant in the business. And I think we put together a good, solid financial package. And if that's something you're struggling with, we could possibly help. We get a number of accountants on our team. But that's it. So hopefully that was a decent overview of what's going on, and give you a little bit more insight into kind of where we are. Larry stole my joke. He said I only saw 2 or 3 people go to sleep during this session. That was my joke, so I was going to say that. I just saw people nodding off, so I didn't see anybody go to sleep, so I think we're in good shape. Hey, look, if you have any questions, I got some cards here. If you want to see these slides, leave me your card. I'll send it to you, but I really appreciate you being here. Love talking about this stuff. This vacation industry beats a real job, doesn't it? Good industry to be in. Thanks for being here.